Welcome to the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. Here's your host, Brien Hanley.
Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is your man, Big B, Brien Hanley. Welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. Today, our spotlight game of the week, Texas Tech, Colorado. Huge game, not only for the Big 12 standings, for college football playoff position. Just a lot riding on this football game. Colorado had the week off. Texas Tech had a huge upset win over Iowa State. We got our man Jarret Johnson here right now talking to us about Texas Tech. He covers the Red Raiders on 24/7 Sports. We'll get into that here in just a quick second. But before we do, remember everybody, like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Continue to leave those comments. We appreciate you, and hit the notification bell so you know when all Big 12 Insider stuff comes out. But first thing first, Jarret, I know we just talked to you last week. We're talking to you again, my man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We were talking off camera just about loving life. Basketball season has started in the NBA. College basketball is tipping off. Meaningful football. The Big 12 has been so exciting. It's can't miss football if you're a college football fan. And I'm loving life, man. Life is great. I get to talk to you all about it.
The thing is, and before we get to the Red Raiders, and like you said, we were just talking off camera, is that Big 12 football is incredible. Every single week, something happens. Here, I was thinking last week, you know what? The slate's not great. It's going to be a tricky game with Iowa State and Texas Tech, and then everything gets turned upside down on its head in this conference. And I don't think anything's going to be different this week, man. I think the same thing is going to happen. You just never know, man. Football is great in the Big 12 right now.
And maybe I'm just, born and raised. I lived my whole life in Texas. Of course, I traveled all over with what I do. But the Texas teams have come on. Baylor has come on. TCU's playing a little better. Houston, obviously, who thought they would have 3 wins, Big 12 wins at this point, and what they did last week. And then Texas Tech is at least figuring in the mix there at the top of the standings in the top 4 or 5. They're playing meaningful football. Like I said, that was the goal in November, to have a game like we're about to talk about coming up with Colorado, where it actually matters beyond just in Lubbock and in Raiderland. And so I think that's really been a big part of the Big 12. It's not the whole story. And again, I'm probably biased, but the Texas schools have kind of risen up and challenged and won some big games. And I think that's made a big difference.
They absolutely have. Speaking of rising up, look, Texas Tech, I'm not going to say they had every reason to go into the tank, Jarret, but the way that they had played the previous 2 weeks, especially the Baylor game, and then the heartbreak disappointment of the TCU game. I mean, look, you could say, okay, well, this is what it is. The season is what it is. We gave away these games. Let's go to Iowa State. Hopefully we put on a good performance, but I don't think fans expected this. Sure, there was some optimism there, but you're not thinking you're going to win that football game. And then they do, and everything changes. First of all, how big of a win is that for the Tech program right now?
It's hard to frame it in how important it was. Obviously, for all the things I just said, to take the next step, Texas Tech needed to play meaningful football in November. This is the 4th consecutive year now that Tech's been bowl eligible, and that means a lot to some and not very much to others. You know what I mean? For Texas Tech, it is a step in the right direction, but the win just itself was the first road win over a ranked opponent since 2011. It's the 3rd road win over a ranked opponent for Texas Tech in the last 50 years. So that gives you an idea. Now, home Tech has beaten a lot of ranked opponents. They used to do it like every year, whether, like back in the day when A&M would come in, they'd be ranked. UT, OU, they used to switch with OU during the Mike Leach era. Whoever was at home was going to win that game. So that's different. But to get a road victory like that, especially like you said, showed against Baylor, an in-state rival. And then you go to TCU, and if you look at like all the stats, you would have thought Tech won that game. But they didn't. The bottom line is they didn't. And Tech is 5-1 in 1-score games this year, which is a great record. I mean, you flip just a couple of those and you're having a completely different season. that's the one loss. And I felt like that was like Tech responded. They played better on defense until the fourth quarter, and the offense did enough to win that game, but they didn't. And so you think, like you said, a lot of guys probably would have gotten down. There was a lot of negativity on the message boards in town here in Lubbock, but this team didn't. At least they didn't fall prey to that. They didn't, feel sorry for themselves. They went out there and they played a really physical game against Iowa, against a very physical team who had a lot on the line, a homecoming crowd. It's a very tough place to play. And, like you said, it wasn't like Tech played over their heads. They made so many mistakes. That was kind of mine and my lead writer, columnist, Joe Yeager. That was our main takeaway is like, even on that final game-winning drive, Texas Tech did so many things almost trying to beat themselves, but in the end, overcame it and had the will to make the plays they needed to win the game. And that's what it's all about. End results, win the game and move on. And now they've set themselves up to have a very meaningful game this week and perhaps a very meaningful November.
Absolutely. The thing, and you touched on it there, Jarret, is it wasn't some, I don't know, just some extraordinary effort that Tech prevailed in this football game and Iowa State just fell on its face and couldn't do anything right. That's not what happened in this game, man. It was Tech made a ton of mistakes. They did.
Yeah.
Iowa State made a ton of mistakes. It was
Yeah.
just a evenly played football game that Tech won. So give Tech credit. They won the football game. It wasn't anything like some Herculean effort or anything crazy. It was just Tech just won the football game. So you got to give them credit. Having said that, you talk about playing meaningful football games in November. They will be playing a meaningful football game in November. How do they put that game? And well, let me just phrase it this way. I would think, Jarret, it's probably easier to get up for this game and put the other game behind them, knowing, number one, what's in front of them if they keep winning football games, and two, getting on the big stage playing against Colorado, which, whether you like it or not, Colorado gives you the eyeballs that I think a lot of Texas Tech fans, players, coaches, everybody is looking for. Colorado's going to give you that. I think it would be easier for the coaches and players to prepare knowing that and to be able to put that last game aside. I think this happens at a great time for Tech. I'll be honest with you, Jarret, because you won this game and it was a big upset, and that's great. But look what's on the horizon, not just the horizon, right here, right now. We got to play right here, right now. I think that's a good thing for them.
It's a great thing. Joey McGuire kind of talked about that on Monday during his press conference. Texas Tech has an inside linebacker who was Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week, Jacob Rodriguez, and he's every good. He means as much to Tech's defense or Tech's entire team that Taj Brooks does. He really does. I know that's a mouthful. Taj Brooks is one of the best running backs in the country. He makes that offense go. But Jacob Rodriguez, he had 13 tackles. He forced a fumble. He did the same thing against Arizona where he had a similar stat line. Multiple tackles for loss. He flies around everywhere. He's a team leader. McGuire said he texted Jacob Rodriguez and said, "Nobody cares. What's next?" That's kind of their saying. It's like, that was him telling Jacob Rodriguez, "Congratulations." This dude is like an action hero. His wife is a helicopter pilot in the Army. He's the guy that he got hurt last year in that Wyoming game in the season opener. And you and I talked about it this offseason. And I think it was understated how important that loss was in terms of him missing a lot of the season. Tech was 4-0 in games he started last year. Now, he didn't play in the UT game to retain a red shirt, and they would have lost even with Jacob Rodriguez. That Texas team was loaded last year, and it was there. They were ready for Tech after all the smack talk. But my point is, from the leadership on down, yes, what's next? Nobody cares. Like, congratulations, you beat Iowa State. Now you have Colorado, Coach Prime. McGuire coached Deion's oldest son at Cedar Hill back in the day in high school. A lot of ties to the program. Obviously, like you said, a lot of eyeballs going to be on this game. The Fox, it's going to be on Fox at 3 o'clock, but the Fox noon big kickoff is coming to Lubbock, which is a big deal for us here in Lubbock. But, those who have been here in terms of Texas Tech getting that attention. You want to play meaningful games in November. You want the spotlight on you. You better show up. you better
Yeah.
not no-show like you did against Baylor, or you would like Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter. Those guys will kick your butt, and let you know about it while they do it. So,
Right.
uh, yeah, they better be ready. They better put that behind them and say, hey, that was a good win. What's next? Nobody cares now that it's this week and you have Colorado. What are you going to do against Colorado? And it's interesting because Colorado's hot. They're better overall as a team than I was expecting.
Mhm.
Where they are strongest is where it's been Tech's fatal flaw. Tech's got a pretty solid team. They have some good football players. But like the Big 12, there are some fatal flaws. And Colorado is strong, very strong, perhaps the strongest in the country in terms of skill position, quarterback, and receiving core, where Tech is weak in the secondary. So that how Tech is going to overcome that and all that, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you how they win this game because it's just what you said. Tech has struggled in the secondary this season, and Colorado, when healthy, Colorado's got, I would say, in my opinion, the best combination of quarterback and wide receivers in the country.
Yeah,
Um, but
absolutely.
the thing that you can do against Colorado, and a couple of teams have done that, you can still get after them and get after the quarterback. That's the thing, man, is that they have run the football better. Colorado
Yeah,
has run the football
yeah,
better over the last month, basically all season, than what they did last year. Last year, they didn't even attempt to try to run the football. And even early in the season, they weren't doing that. They've done a hell of a job turning all that around.
yeah.
How does Tech go about trying to beat Colorado this week?
I think you said it. You have to affect the quarterback, and it's tricky because Shadur's so good in terms of when plays break down, making something out of nothing. He's got that great receiving core. I mean, pick 3 or 4 of them that could be playing on Sunday. Obviously Travis Hunter is going to be a top 5 draft pick or something like that, top 10 at least. So yeah, but you have to get after him. You have to force him to make errant throws, and you have to create turnovers. Texas Tech has been very good at creating turnovers this year. They're up there. I don't know what the turnover margin numbers are. I haven't looked at it since Saturday, but they've consistently forced turnovers. Jacob Rodriguez, the inside linebacker, is a big part of it. Ben Roberts is another inside linebacker. Going into the season, I thought that was the strength of the team. Those 2 guys, we probably talked about it. They've been studs,
Right.
absolute studs. I mean, they have. They've exceeded those expectations. I think Jacob Rodriguez will be a first team uh, all Big 12 linebacker. I really do. I don't. There's some really good linebackers out there, but the dude is just all over the field, making forcing big turnovers. And Ben Roberts as a blitzer has been key. He forced one last week against Iowa State and Rocco Becht. He did against Cincinnati as well. That was a big turning point in Tech's close victory. So that's what they have to do. In the last 2 weeks, Texas Tech has been much better in terms of getting after the quarterback. One of the reasons for that is an outside linebacker named Harvey Dyson. He's a really interesting story. He's a redshirt sophomore, and he was a guy that McGuire has said this publicly and behind closed doors or whatever, behind the scenes, that Harvey Dyson was about to get processed. They give the way, and that's the way it is now. This is like, they're basically professional. They're professional
Yeah.
athletes. And after 3 years, if you're in the front 7 or offensive line, that kind of group, you're in the trenches doing battle, and you haven't shown anything, then it's time to start. It's time to start moving somewhere else. Go to North
Right.
Texas or something. And Harvey Dyson heard what Coach McGuire, Tim DeRuiter, the defensive coordinator, and other coaches were saying, and he's playing like a dude who in his last year used to be senior year. There's 5th year, 7th year seniors now, but a guy who had his final year of eligibility, one last ride. He's playing like that every game. He had a strip sack against TCU that was huge, and he recovered the fumble. He also deflected a pass that was intercepted in that game, which
Mhm.
was a big reason for Tech's lead. Last week, he had a big sack and provided consistent pressure. But it's not just him and those inside linebackers. They've started moving those interior defensive linemen instead of just having them hold up offensive linemen. I'm not going to get too technical, but
Right.
instead of just holding up and playing, a base defense with their front
Sure.
defensive linemen. I know, I'm just talking about people out there.
I
Uh,
get it.
they're actually moving. They're stunning. They're doing all kinds of things. They're into the holes, into the gaps, and it's made a difference. I mean, Rocco Becht, I think that was the biggest difference. I mean, Tech's offense is very good. That's how they're going to score points against Colorado. The defense has had its challenges, but the difference last week and what could be the difference against Colorado is if they get consistent pressure on the quarterback, and that's something different than what they were doing earlier in the year.
Well, the thing about it is that playing those games up front, those twists, slants, stunts,
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff. If you can do that and get pressure on Colorado without blitzing, that's the key because you want to have as many guys in
yeah,
coverage as you possibly can. Still be stout against the run. You know, that's how teams have been able to beat Colorado. The few teams that have this year is that Kansas State and Nebraska both got a ton of pressure without having to blitz guys. And if you can do that, that gives you a better opportunity because again, you got to play coverage, you know, with the kind of weapons that they have. You got to have as many people in coverage as you can possibly have.
yeah.
Um, you know, I'm going to get you out of here on this, Jarret. And look, Texas Tech fans may or may not agree. You may or not agree, but I'm going to say it and ask it anyway. Looking at their schedule, look, it's the Big 12. Anything is possible in this conference, as we've seen week after week. But you just look at the schedule. Oklahoma State looks like they've quit. West Virginia, still dangerous, but not as dangerous as what you thought at the beginning of the year. They're still battling. Don't get me wrong. We'll know a lot more about them after this week. But I would venture to say this is the biggest game that Texas Tech has had in a while, my man, because you win this one, and then you're right there in the standings of the Big 12 because you'll own the tiebreaker over Iowa State if Iowa State happens to lose another game. You'll own the tiebreaker over Colorado because you've beaten them. How all that stuff works with Kansas State, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is a huge game, my man. I don't know that people realize how big a game this is, or maybe they do. Maybe they do
Yeah.
realize how big a game this is. I'm just saying, this is the biggest game that Texas Tech has had in a little while, and I'm excited for them.
I'm excited for them too. I'm excited for these coaches and these players. They've earned it.
Yeah.
You've earned the right to be in this position. Now, what's next? You know,
Right.
like you said, I don't know if people realize, like McGuire said, nobody cares. What's next? What's next is a huge opportunity against the team that attracts the most eyeballs.
Correct.
I mean, for obvious reasons, whether it's deserved or not, I think it is. I enjoy watching Colorado play. I do. I just, as a fan, I can't wait for the game. And to answer your question, yeah, absolutely, it's the biggest game that Tech's been in a while. I think that speaks to the fact that Tech, hasn't been very important because they haven't earned that right. It's not some kind of conspiracy. You got to win ball games. You earn respect in college football by winning tough road games.
Yes.
Tech did that last week. You got some respect. Now you got Colorado coming to your house. What are you going to do? And if you win this game, yeah. I mean, and you look ahead, yes, it looks like Oklahoma State has quit, but it's there. West Virginia, I respect them. West Virginia, too many times in too many sports,
Right.
they just have an edginess that I respect.
They
It's
do.
very Texas Tech like. They feel very, undervalued. All that stuff. All those things, the chip on the shoulder. So definitely not looking too far ahead in that. This is the game. Win this game.
Yeah.
And then you start doing all the math, like what's the third tiebreaker with Kansas State and all that stuff, But there's a lot of football to be played. I want to throw a couple of stats out there.
Sure.
Texas Tech is 7-2 in November under Joey McGuire. 7-2,
Okay.
9-2 if you count December as well. So, things set up well. I believe those stats sometimes can be misleading, but I think last week they showed you Tech plays its best football under Joey McGuire in November, and that's worth noting.
Yeah. I mean, I guess people forget last weekend's game. It was a November game.
Yep.
This weekend's game is a November game, and that's all you can ask. You've touched on it a couple times, Jarret, and you are 100% right. All that coaches, players, fans, everybody involved, all you can ask is that your team be playing meaningful football games in November. Well, they went and they did it last week, and they got a gigantic victory that put them right smack dab back in the middle of this race to get to Arlington. They have another huge game this weekend. Like you mentioned, couldn't have happened to a better fan base. I love the fans out of Texas Tech. Look, you've talked about it, and they understand that. Sometimes they feel left out there for years by themselves, just on the western part of this. Now, they're not that anymore, but they still kind of feel out there by themselves. It's good to see Texas Tech playing meaningful football. I cannot wait for this football game on Saturday, Jarret. So
Me neither.
taking the time, man, and giving us today, as you always do. Look forward to seeing it and look forward to talking to you again soon, my man. We will talk to you shortly.
Hey, I hope we're talking in a couple of weeks, because Tech got it done and they're still playing meaningful games in November. I want to keep this thing going. It's been exciting. It's Big 12 football in general, though. It's been great this year. It's been better than what I was expecting, and I can't wait to see what happens next, man.
Absolutely. We will be back on the other side of this to talk to Adam Munsterteiger, who covers Colorado for 24/7 Sports. We will be right back.
Welcome back to the show. Let's head back to the studio.
All right, welcome back to Big 12 Insiders. We got Adam Munsterteiger here, who covers Colorado for 24/7 Sports. Adam, how are you doing today, my man?
Doing great, Big B. I got a break during the bye week, 2 bye weeks in one season. That's very unprecedented for media folks. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it doesn't happen too often, if ever, but we got it this year. Speaking of bye weeks, how did Colorado spend their bye week?
Little time off. Travis Hunter went fishing with Coach Prime, and we heard, if you can tune in to Coach Prime's presser, he gave a great story about just kind of the late night hours that Travis Hunter keeps. He was driving around in their runner at like 1:00 in the morning, and then Coach Prime said he woke up, saw Travis on TV at Fox Big Noon Kickoff and College Game Day for ESPN. So it's been a fun time around here.
Yeah, a lot going on. Look, man, Colorado right now, last weekend had to be, I mean, a lot of people, the tagline is Colorado won, even though they had an off week. And, for what they're trying to accomplish, I would suspect last weekend kind of set them up, or potentially set them up anyway, for some good things possibly ahead. Things shook out the way that Colorado needed it to shake out. They still need possibly a little more help. Again, I don't know how all the tiebreakers are going to work and all that good stuff. But it was a good weekend last weekend for Colorado.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those situations where if you're a Colorado fan, just take care of business and then see how everything falls out from there. Yeah, obviously Iowa State losing and Kansas State losing helps them. And I think Colorado really wants a chance at BYU. I think a lot of teams do in this conference, right? Like, are you for real? Are you for real? And that's what I think is kind of Colorado's not going to get that opportunity unless they get to the Big 12 championship game. And if that's the case, then that should be an entertaining game. But you got 4 weeks left, a lot ahead of you. And we saw Travis Hunter go out to Fox Big Noon Kickoff and ESPN College Game Day out there at Penn State this past weekend. So, the folks out here are just enjoying Colorado being relevant again. But you've got to keep winning games, and they're going to be the favorites in these Final Four games, I think, unless something goes sideways here the next few weeks. But that has been kind of a reset following this bye week of, can you manifest the consistency that we saw the previous 2 weeks?
Well, the thing about it is, and a remarkable job by Coach Prime and his staff and the kids and everybody that's involved with the program. You just go back a year and a half ago, Adam, and I think it was they lost by an average of 29 points a game, which is absolutely insane when you think about that. And now to look where they are. Now, again, a lot of football left, haven't accomplished anything yet. But just to be able to say that for where they're coming from, I don't think there was anybody who thought the results that they would look like this. And even at the beginning of the season, if people are being honest with themselves, at that Nebraska game, I don't know that there was a lot of people that saw them being 6-2. That maybe the players and coaches and that sort of thing, but there wasn't a lot of people, Adam, that thought they'd be at 6-2 at this point after that Nebraska game.
That's kind of the difference with this football team, right? Is the resiliency factor. That offensive line was beat up at Nebraska, and they got, borderline embarrassed. And so to be able to go the last 4 or 5 weeks and be a little bit more consistent offensively in terms of the offensive line, that's been a big key for them. But you want to see that consistency coming out of the bye week, right? We saw them come out of the last bye week and lose to Kansas State, and so that's going to be kind of the key for them going out of this. They have kind of found a better rotation on that offensive line than they had before. But yeah, that Nebraska game was, as DJ McKinney told us at the press conference today, was kind of a wake-up call.
Gotcha. So, this week, this is a gigantic football game. Texas Tech coming off that win at Iowa State, they're riding high, confidence built. They still have an outside shot to be able to get to Arlington if things fall their way. They got to keep winning. Let's talk about that. How does Colorado go? And I know it's still early, but how's Colorado go and win this football game?
A couple of weeks ago, I told you Arizona was kind of the king of the Jekyll and Hyde teams.
Yes.
In this conference. And since then, they've been Jekyll, right? They have fallen to the bottom of this conference. And now Texas Tech is kind of, I think, taking that crown in terms of being the Jekyll and Hyde team of this conference. And so their pass defense has not done very well. And so Shedeur Sanders in this offense should do well for Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
But you also know, for a lot of teams, Colorado is the Super Bowl for Texas Tech. Oh, yeah. I know they have bowl eligibility now, but they have got Fox Big Noon kickoff coming down there. And so that part of it is kind of the unknown of, okay, are they going to step up defensively in that secondary to actually be somebody that can shut down or even limit Travis Hunter and company with Shedeur Sanders running the quarterback for Colorado. So that's the part of it that I don't know. I would say that Colorado has kind of that on paper advantage when you look at kind of what they're going to go against in terms of Texas Tech's deficiency.
Right.
But you got to go out there and do it. And this conference is bonkers. So.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. The conference is just up and down every week, getting turned upside down on its head. I'm a guy that loves chaos, and I really, really do. So I enjoy all of this, the back and forth. You don't know who's going to win each week. Heck, I thought last week, Adam, that it was going to be, because there wasn't really technically any marquee matchups or any legitimacy type games or anything like that. And lo and behold, Tech goes to Ames and loses. Kansas State goes to Houston and loses. It's just, or Tech goes to Ames and wins, excuse me. So it's one of those things that every single week with this conference. Look, I'll get you out of here on this, Adam. I appreciate you, as always, giving us your time. Look, Colorado is on a collision course here with the college football playoff. As we are taping this, the rankings are going to come out shortly. The thing that I've said, even if they don't get the tiebreakers and the tiebreakers don't go their way, Colorado wins out, they're getting in the college football playoff. 10-2 with the number of eyeballs that they have on them. They'll be playing really good football. If you're 10-2, they're making it. Is that kind of the sentiment of the program right now, thinking, hey, guys, let's just go win each and every week. And if we do that, we're going to end up in the college football playoff, regardless if we get in the Big 12 championship game or not, because they'll be in the top 15 if they finish 10-2.
Yeah, that's kind of the take care of it one game at a time is obviously the mentality that they have to take. And it's
Right.
cliche. And it's what we as media folks hate because you can't quote that. You don't want to quote one game at a time. But it's true. Like, take care of the next 4 weeks. And Deion Sanders is your head coach. And if you're 10-2, they can't keep you out.
Correct. Absolutely. So I'm really looking forward to this game because I think, like I said, Texas Tech coming off a really confident game. We'll see how they handle the spotlight because it'll be a lot of bright lights that they're really not used to. Colorado is used to that. But like you said, didn't play. I guess they didn't play bad against Kansas State. They just didn't play up to their par after the last bye week. So appreciate you giving us your time, Adam. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Thanks, Brian.
No problem. Thank you guys, everybody, for taking the time to listen. It's going to be a really good game between Colorado and Texas Tech. I'm looking forward to it. Tech, again, riding high off of that win against Iowa State, but they're the type of program, as we heard from Jarret Johnson earlier, is that, hey, we're moving on. What's next? You got to have that approach, man. So I look forward to it. Colorado playing good football right now. This is the Big 12 Conference. Every week, man. Every single week is something. So I appreciate you guys, man. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff, and leave those comments as you always have. I love the back and forth. Let's get to 3,000 subscribers as soon as we can, man. I appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Big 12 Insiders, your Big 12 sports show. This has been a Spirit Street production.